Good morning, boys and girls. Today in math, we are going to be working on something called comparison number stories. So I've got a new diagram for you guys to look at, learn how to use, and then we're going to talk about what the word quantity means, and we're also going to discuss the word difference. So let's go ahead and get started by looking at a comparison number story example together. Here we go. What we're looking here is called a comparison diagram. And with the comparison diagram, you're going to see a couple of different words. So the first word that we're going to see is the word quantity. It also says quantity here in the smaller box. And the last word in this comparison diagram is the word difference. So comparison number stories involve the differences between two quantities. Well, what does quantity mean? Quantity describes an amount or a number of things. So, however many things you have, this larger quantity box is used for the larger number, and the smaller quantity box is used for the smaller of the numbers. The difference is the amount unmatched between two quantities. So basically, the difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. Just like the word sum is the answer to an adding problem, the difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. All right, I would like us to go ahead and take a look at an example of a comparison number story. We're going to think back to using that fish poster that we used a little while ago. And this is an example for you. So fish A is 14 inches long. Fish B is 6 inches long. Already I see two quantities. 14 is a quantity and 6 is a quantity. It's just a number. Which one of those is the bigger quantity? Yep, you got it, 14. Which one is the smaller quantity? 6, you're right. So if I were to plug in those numbers into my diagram, I would put 14 here and I would put 6 here. So those are the two quantities that we know. Again, fish A is 14 inches long. Fish B is 6 inches long. How many inches longer is fish A than fish B? So I want to know how much longer fish A is than B. So I've drawn a picture for you of the fish A and fish B, and I've matched these fish up with a ruler. Well, this is more than a ruler because we know a ruler is only 12 inches and this goes to 14. So this is just a measuring tool, and I've drawn fish A all the way to 14 inches. And then I've also drawn fish B all the way to 6 inches, just like it said in our number story. So when we find the difference, when we want to know how many inches longer fish A is, this right here, from the end of the fish B's tail all the way to the end of fish A's tail, this space in between the two fish, this is what we call the difference. So this is what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so if I were to plug in these numbers, I know that fish A is 14 inches, fish B is 6 inches, and I want to know the difference. We know that from using part total diagrams that if I've got part here, another part would go here, and then the total would be there. So we're going to kind of use this diagram kind of like that, but instead we're going to be going backwards. So I'm going to be thinking, 14 minus 6 equals what? We've actually have a few different number models that we could use to figure this out. So one example of that would be 14 minus 6 equals our mystery number, the difference. We could use 6 plus the mystery number equals 14. Can you think of any more? Okay, so let's go ahead and just look at this. So if you had to figure this out, what would the difference between these two numbers be? Did you say 8? If you did, you are correct. So the answer to my question then would be, how many inches longer is fish A than fish B? My answer would be 8 inches. And the space between these two fish right here would be 8 inches. If I start at 6 and count all the way up to 14, that would equal 8. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we got our answer correct. Here is our next example of a comparison number story. It says, Joey scored 30 points. Max scored 10 points. How many more points did Joey score than Max? One thing I want to point out in this comparison number story are these words. How many more than? How many more than? When I see those words are magical in my mind, because when I see those words, how many more than, I always know that it's going to be some type of subtraction problem. So those are magical keywords that you want to look out for when you are reading some number stories. So look for those words, how many more than. All right, so again, Joey scored 30 points, Max scored 10 points. So 30 and 10 are the two quantities that we know in this number story. So which one of those quantities is the bigger one? If you said 30, you're correct. So we're going to go ahead and write 30 in the bigger box because it's the bigger number. And we're going to write 10 in the smaller quantity box because it's the smaller quantity. Now I know that I can subtract to get the difference. That's actually what the word difference means. It's the answer to a subtracting problem. So I could do 30 minus 10 equals our difference. Or I could do 30 minus the difference equals 10. I could do 10 plus this mystery number equals 30. Or I could even do the mystery number plus 10 equals 30. So I would pick one of those ways to solve the problem, and that's how I would do it. So what is 30 take away 10? If you said 20, you are correct. So how many more points did Joey score than Max? 20 more points. One thing that I would like to point out to you and maybe have you think about is that our quantity, and difference diagram is a lot similar to our fact triangle. If you remember, in the fact triangle, the bigger number was always on the top, just like the bigger quantity box. And then there were two other numbers at the bottom of the triangle. So let's go ahead and think about this fact triangle that we learned about quite a while back ago, and think about that as we do our next problem. Let's look at this problem. Nan is 55 inches tall. Mandy is 40 inches tall. Who is shorter? How much shorter? So I know my two quantities one person is 55 inches, another person is 40 inches. And if I were to put that into my diagram, I would write that Nan is 55 inches, Mandy is 40 inches. So if I were to plug this into my fact triangle as I'm thinking about that, 55 would be at the top and 40 would be here. So all we have to do is figure out what this mystery number is. And that's the same thing that we're using this comparison diagram with. So I can do a few things. I can think about my fact triangle and come up with 4 different number models. I can think of 2 addition ones and 2 subtraction ones. So my addition ones would be 40 plus this mystery number here equals 55. Or I could turn that around and say mystery number plus 40 equals 55. I can then think about 2 subtraction problems. 55 minus 40 equals our mystery number. Or I can do 55 minus the mystery number equals 40. So you can think about this problem in 4 different ways. You've got 4 different choices. If you think using the subtraction way is the easiest, then use that. If you think that the adding version of this is the easiest, then do that. Okay, did you figure out the answer? I know that Mandy is shorter, but how much shorter is she? If you said 15 inches, you are correct. So for the answer, I would say 15 inches shorter. Today, you will get to practice comparison number stories in your math journal. It starts on page 137. You've got the first couple of problems on the first page, and then you also have 3 more comparison number stories on page 138. As you are working on your comparison number stories today, think about those fact triangles that we learned many weeks ago. Think about the comparison diagrams that we just learned, and think about those number families and how all of those numbers relate to each other. You can do it. I believe in you. Have a great day.